Yeah, that's scary. That's scary. You keep getting into this creepy zone, Mike. I thought we were having fun. You said fun stories.
Yeah, I don't know, but hey, we're in a serious business, man. It's not all fun and games. We went from weird to scary. So do you use Alexa in your house?
We have. I mean, that's probably not some information I should just throw out there into.
Because I was gonna head to the neighbor's roof with a laser.
How long have I been in this business? I know how to answer that. I mean, that's between me and Amazon. That's between me and Amazon, right? And Jeff Bezos. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Cyber Guys podcast, the cybersecurity podcast for everyone. My name is Andrew Valencia.
And I'm Michael Hill.
And Mike, I got to tell you, there's a lot of times we run into issues with cybersecurity risks and organizational priorities, right? What happens when those two...
Andrew, what's the craziest thing you ever did in your cybersecurity? Which is a crazy... Just give me a crazy story. Let's just talk crazy stories.
Crazy story. You're going off track. Okay. All right, I'm with it. I'll go with it. The craziest thing I ever did? I don't know that I can talk...
Or
the craziest thing I ever saw. I could tell you the most embarrassing thing that I've ever seen in my cybersecurity.
Okay.
A long time ago, when I was earning my bachelor's degree in cybersecurity, one of the modules was learning standard cybersecurity tools, things like Wireshark. And I had a good
protocol capture. So you were capturing packets on the network. Okay, that's fun. All right, let me hear. What'd you get?
So I had a good friend of the family's actually had to stay with us, kind of a last minute type of deal, and I had a project that I had to do some packet capturing with, and without even thinking about it, popped on my laptop late at night. And did some of that packet capture and intending for it to just show some of the stuff that I had like on my second laptop or on my phone, and instead accidentally captured what our friend was pulling down off the internet, and it was not educational resources. We'll say.
Oh snap! So you snooped somebody
accidentally. I'll be honest with you. I was very new at that. I hadn't really played around with that stuff very much, and I was trying to get a feel for it, and I didn't even realize that it was something I could do. And when it happened, I went, "Oh no!"
As soon as you saw the URLs, you kind of knew what was going on. Huh?
I knew it wasn't me. I knew it wasn't the wife. And so, and I had the thing was is I had I knew what the MAC addresses were for our hardware in the house, and that wasn't one of them. So yeah, it was a little awkward. I don't think I've ever brought that up with them.
Yeah, that sounds awkward. All right, that's one of the ones.
I'll be honest with you. It was a good learning lesson. It was a good lesson learned, honestly, in like, be careful what you look for, right? Because you can definitely
might find it.
You could definitely overturn some things that are wish you hadn't. I mean, it's probably one of the reasons why I didn't get into forensics, to be honest with you, because the stuff that you can even when you're not even trying to, the stuff you can pull out is it's some stuff.
You can't unsee that stuff.
You can't change. Yeah, your frame of a person can't change after stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I was okay. So I said okay. So I shared mine. What you have a story? I don't have a story you wanted to.
I don't have anything like that.
Really?
I don't have anything even close to that. No, but I will tell you a really weird thing that happened. It was when I was working with a very sensitive system, so I can't get into any details. But I got this classified phone call from counterintelligence asking us when we were hacked, and to our knowledge, we had never been hacked. And then, he had this information, and then when he realized that we never knew that we were hacked, that was the end of their call. And it was just one of those weird things. We had to go back and start looking at. Right after that, we did a big refresh on the system, but that was a weird call.
Back when I worked as a security analyst for a government agency, it's about as deep as specific as I can get into it. I got an email that was an obvious phishing attempt, asking for my username and password, really my username and my PIN. And I was like, okay, this is obviously phishing, and it was to the organizational email. So it wasn't something that I was expecting to get from someone external, even though that does happen. So I went to the security manager, and I was like, "Hey, is there any chance that we're under like a red team or a network penetration?" Excuse me. And I asked her, "Is there any way that we're in like a red team, or we're undergoing some kind of network penetration testing?" And she goes, "I have no idea." So
simulating adversarial attacks,
right. So I took a look at the email, saw the person's name, and hey, I was like, let me look at the address list in Outlook, to see if like anything pops up. And sure enough, the guy's first name and last name popped up, and I had an email address. I then went ahead and Googled that email address, and it just so happened to tie to a network penetration team a member's LinkedIn profile. Their email address showed what organization they worked for within this government agency, and I was able to search that on LinkedIn and found out that it was in fact somebody who was trying to obviously phish me. And I thought that was hilarious, because I was like, why on earth would you choose your real name as your make anything up, right? Why not why not use a pseudo account, like of somebody in the IT help desk or something? Why would you put your real first name and last name?
and on top of that, why does he have all his information in LinkedIn?
And on top of that, why would
you were able to basically you were able to,
I could have probably social engineered. I could have backwards, social engineered this guy to give me more info that he ever wanted to put. And he was very obviously like a junior, pen tester. But it struck me as funny that I was like, hey man, you got to be careful the way you go. You got to follow some methodology behind your pen testing. You can't just shoot some stuff off out in the blind and not expect someone to be, hey, I'm just going to Google this person's email address and see what I find. I mean, especially having your organization in that, it's crazy. But yeah, that's just another one that struck me as like, yeah, I've seen some silly stuff. That's one of the more silly ones for sure.
But you know what, though, there are some really weird cybersecurity stories out there. In fact, Avast has a interesting page on their blog from just a few weeks back. The 12 weirdest cybersecurity stories you haven't heard about.
The 12 that we haven't heard about. Okay.
Yeah.
But I'm interested. I want to see,
so let's take a look at
this Avast article. Let's take a look.
Yeah, let's see. So the weirdest cybersecurity stories you haven't heard. All right. The first one on the list, forget thumb drives, meet the leg drive. It's a new device about the size of a pack of gum called Pegleg, is meant to be surgically inserted into your leg. Any Wi-Fi enabled device can access it, and the device can store hundreds of gigabytes of data. This would allow the embedded user to bootleg data into another country.
I'm going to have to ask you to leave, sir. You can't make that kind of a pun and get away with it. There's no way.
It's terrible, isn't it?
You're pulling my leg, Mike.
Bootlegging. All right. So we're both dads, so excuse us for our dad jokes.
So there's a device out there now that can fit inside someone's fake leg or someone's leg. Okay.
No, it's actually surgically installed into your actual leg.
Yeah.
It's not. It's basically first generation cyborg technology. Augmentation with electronic augmentation is not that far away, really.
if Elon Musk does have anything to say about it, it is right around the corner. It's definitely something that I wonder how less weird that's going to be in a decade. Stories like that,
But that
it's going to be
I
more
I
commonplace,
think
right?
that's really the point. I
Yeah.
think that's really kind of the point. I mean, Google Glass kind of wants people's glasses to be,
Mhm.
an extension of their body that gives them, detailed metrics on whatever they happen to look at. You look at it and you get, all the data. So the idea of having something like that actually surgically embedded into you, or feeding right into your brain, that's next gen technology that people are already investigating right now. So it's weird right now, but maybe you're right. Maybe it won't
Yeah,
be as
like I
weird
think in a
later.
decade for sure. I mean, like we're already cyborged out, right? Like my grandfather has a pacemaker, right? That's definitely a very minimal level of of technology, interfacing with
Yeah.
organic material. But yeah, that's going to be of a greater concern. I do know of a bunch of white papers and stuff out there that kind of specifically talk about the dangers ahead, essentially, right? 10, 20 years down the road, this type of stuff is going to cause lots of headaches.
You're right. How about the next one on the list? Ransomware victim hacks back. So after paying his ransomware attacker 670 euros, Tobias Fromel, I'm probably butchering his name, he sought revenge hacking into the attacker's command and control center, generating decryption keys for all the other victims who'd suffered the same attack.
Oh,
And he explained to Bleeping Computer that he was able to pull from the attacker's server the hardware IDs for each of the 2,858 victims stored in the server's database, along with each victim's unique decryptor key.
wow.
So what do you think of this guy? This
Yeah,
guy's a
the guy's a
hero, right?
hero. Yeah, I mean, it reminds me actually uh, of the gentleman who just hacked North Korea back. I don't know if I don't want. I don't know a ton
No,
of
that's
details about
similar.
that. It's been a story I've trying to do some research on, but he essentially was uh, the victim of an attempted attack, and was able to kind of use some of the same tactics as I'm sure this gentleman did, to find out a lot more information on these scammers than they were ever willing to give up. And in part, like found a bunch of different victims, and their contact information. Actually reached out to them and told them, hey, that money you sent off to that person, it's actually not a real person. You know, and so yeah, I mean, I think the more technologically uh, knowledgeable people get, I think you're going to start to see more and more of these stories kind of pop up, because the some of these attackers, some of these bad actors, they're not as sophisticated as you might think at first
Well,
glance, right?
that's really the thing. I mean, when I'm teaching cyber classes, one thing I always tell my students about is the cycle, the life cycle of uh, new emerging vulnerabilities and threats and attacks. And there's a point, right around the 0 day where only highly sophisticated threat agents can do anything to you. But then, those more sophisticated threat agents don't want to do it manually, so they write code to do it. And eventually, after they've written a little app to do the hack that they've identified, then they stick it out in the dark web and give it to everybody else. And eventually, over time, it's something that anybody with access to these Tor websites can access. They can basically pull down the hack, and now they don't have to have the skill set to create the hack, to
They just need
implement the
to
hack.
press a button.
So
Yeah.
yeah, honestly, I mean, I hate to get serious while we're talking about fun stuff, but that's the reason why it's so important to keep your software baseline, security baseline up to date, because a vulnerability that is brand spanking new, there are only a handful of people that can exploit it. But as time goes on, any idiot can attack that vulnerability. Or how
Okay.
about this one? Uh, Crimes of the heart online. The FBI's cybercrime report found uh, that the second costliest category of crime behind only compromised business email was confidence and romance fraud, with a 2018 cost of 363 million. The scams happened 18,493 times that year, uh, an average of 50 times a day.
Oof.
People basically, taking
Those poor
advantage
lonely
of lonely
hearts.
hearts.
Goodness.
Yeah, exactly. That's more of a sad
That's
one than a
sad.
weird
No, you
story.
said this was fun. That made me sad. It's just people looking for love, and they're getting.
Yeah, yeah. Let's just
You know
move
what?
on. What's the
You
next
know
one
what's
on their
a
list?
better one in keeping in the same almost kind of line. Do you remember
What's
what
that?
was it? It was 3 years ago or so that adult friend finder hack.
Yeah. Oh man, I think I think I had something on that. Yeah. That was a big
You know
one.
what? It's funny.
You know?
My wife had a friend whose significant other was a part of that and was exposed.
Oh no,
Yeah,
you're kidding.
it was not fun. No, it was not fun. It was one of those let me just see. I'm just going to check because I just want to see. And sure enough, they had found their name, and it was not fun times for them after that. But
Man, yeah.
and it was something like 600. I mean, it was in the millions of records, I think, that got exposed. And I don't know. Hey, you got to be careful what you put out there. I mean, right? I mean, and it goes back to this
Wow.
too, right? Like anybody that you meet online or any entity that you interact with, whether it be an individual or an organization or a government agency, even, you have to be kind of careful what you're putting out there, and that you have to have some kind of trust in the source, right?
And I tell you, a lot of people put way too much trust in Google Chrome's what's it, incognito mode. Like, you may be in the so-called incognito mode, but there's still a footprint of
For anybody
everything.
who's watching this or listening to this right now, incognito mode does not make you invisible. It absolutely does not work
It
that
does
way.
not. Not at all. You are
Your
still
internet service
absolutely
your internet
detectable.
service provider knows exactly who you are, knows exactly what website you're going to. Even people who use VPNs, not 100% secure there either. Incognito mode is not the
Yeah.
way to go.
Yeah, it just takes care of your local. It doesn't take care of any of your ripples into the cyberspace. All right, how
Okay.
about this one? They said, "Happy birthday, Facebook! Your money's no good." Well, look at
I
it. It says,
think I think I know this one. I think I remember this.
"Oh,
I
you know."
think so.
It said Facebook turned 15, celebrating the milestone with total monthly users of around 2.32 billion. The birthday and user base provided little protection from controversy. The social media giant announced its own digital currency, Libra, and experienced major pushback within hours as policymakers around the world voiced concerns it could heavily disrupt the global financial system.
Yeah, I do
What do you
remember.
remember about
I do love the idea that Meta now, right? Meta,
that?
or
Yeah, Meta,
that a
right?
company is is so vital for a specific service they provide that they can suddenly create their own global currency and cause governments, like real,
Yeah, freak out.
real stuff, to go, hang on a second, wait a minute, you can't just make up monopoly money and say that's the new thing. Like, that's not how this is going to
But
work.
but the crazy thing is, we live in the world of crypto, and the question comes back to you: why not? So
Mhm.
this is a real next gen controversial situation. I mean, we're not talking just Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Dogecoin. I mean, if a major player that's as broad based as Meta were to really push something like this hard, you know, that would certainly have some global economic
It does have
impacts.
impact for sure. And there's been governments that have, instituted, or have allowed, certain cryptocurrency to become their fiat. I think Venezuela recently did that. They're few and far between, but yeah, it's gonna be interesting going to the future. I think we definitely need to do a future episode about it. We're talking about
Yeah,
cryptocurrency and
maybe so.
cybersecurity and all of that, because
Yeah.
it's a minefield. It really is.
It is, well, you know me and my other life as an economics buff. I spent a lot of time in my book talking about what money is and what money isn't, and really, crypto is just a more honest version of what all money is. But I'll leave it at that. Um, this next one, kind of uh, seems more creepy than weird. It says, a sleazy cop shut down and busted on the world stage. Germany fined a police officer $1,500 for looking up a driver's mobile number using their license plate information and then calling them for personal reasons. Now
That
you talk about abuse of authority.
That is some abuse of authority for sure. They only fined
Yeah,
him
I mean, the
$1,500.
cop is my stalker. Think about that. The cop is my stalker.
Well,
Yeah,
that's a
yeah, only
scary
fifteen
thought.
hundred dollars for that.
Only
Yeah,
$1,500. That's
and
yeah, that's
that's
definitely
crazy.
not.
But think
That's
about it. I mean, the the privacy laws in the EU are crazy. The idea that that's all he was fined is nuts. I mean, the privacy laws in Europe are way,
Mhm.
way more strict than here. And here you have someone, who has authority, access to the, driver's database, can actually match plates with phone numbers and trying to get a hookup. I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, and what's more over here that's lot more prevalent, I think, is you hear about Uber drivers, calling people,
Yeah.
texting people after their rides, now, and there's people who take Uber rides to their to their home, and now you have people who have your home address, and there's certainly been instances where that's been abused. That's actually something that we talk a lot
Yeah.
about in cybersecurity, right? When we talk about like privileged users,
Yeah.
right? That cop is a
Absolutely.
privileged user. He has
Yeah.
privileged access to
Yeah.
sensitive information. There's
Yeah.
a way to address that, of course, but creeps are going to be creeps, right? They're,
Creeps
there's
are creeps.
yeah, and
And when the creep has a gun, he's extra creepy.
it's super
So
creepy.
that's a whole other
It's
level.
it's one of those things where you go back to your. I go back to when we were doing security architecture or even like policy development for organizations, and you go, well, that's a factor you have to institute kind of at the ground level, where whoever your that goes into your hiring practices, that goes into your onboarding, that goes into your annual training. Who has access to what, and what is proper use of that access, what's proper use of that information, because yeah, you can gain access to someone's full name and social security number and their address, but unless it's being utilized for the following authorized purposes, you shouldn't be touching it.
All right, but let's look at another one of these.
Okay, let's
Criminals.
get fun again. This is getting I don't like the creepy stuff.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We're getting a little too serious now. But how about this one? Criminals use AI to impersonate a CEO's voice. A UK-based energy
Hmm.
firm was
Hmm.
scammed out of $250,000 when criminals targeted the company with an effective vishing campaign. Vishing is a short for voice
Vishing,
phishing,
right?
right?
Yeah, voice phishing. Yeah.
Yeah, voice phishing. So this tactic is for tricking targets over the phone, and the incident marked the first time of an AI-based fraud that netted a high payload, according to the Next Web. But I tell you that's actually not weird, but kind of interesting because last summer, my daughter, she was high school freshman at the time, or sophomore. She had a summer project working with AI to develop a system that would analyze behavior analytics in voice recognition, so as to match voice parameters to mood and emotional states. The point is, there is open source AI technology out there for voice analytics
Hmm.
and duplication that is very sophisticated.
Yeah, deep faking voices, right? That's essentially what it is, right? You can deep fake
Yeah, exactly.
you deep fake someone on video. There's depending on who does it, it's
Yeah,
passable or not.
actually,
But
I think they voice fake. They use AI to voice fake Luke Skywalker in the Mandalorian when they de-aged him because
really?
his current voice is a little bit too gravelly.
Oh, did they use?
So
Oh, they use
it
that same technology to
yeah,
make Mark Hamill sound more like he did back in the
sound
80s.
young again.
Interesting.
Exactly.
So that is actually
So
kind of scary
it
because
works.
imagine, I mean, just as a private citizen, imagine getting a call, especially as a senior citizen, right? Imagine getting a call from a family member asking for money, um, and that person's voice sounding enough like you know that person's family member.
You recognize it, but you recognize the voice.
If
So
you recognize
as
it,
far as you're concerned,
yeah,
this
you know,
is them.
yep.
You know it's them.
And
The
forget
thing
just the
is,
family members. Even if you look at the companies as a whole, you can have like that, like they did with this. Some CEO call somebody and say, "Hey, I want this amount of money sent to this supplier at this address," and they go, "Okay, it sounds right." My
yeah,
caller ID says it's them. right? Because we know there's ways to spoof, caller ID. So I guess that's what I'm going to do. Yeah, that's scary. That's scary. You keep getting into this creepy zone, Mike. I thought we were having fun. You said fun stories.
Yeah, I don't know, but hey, we're in a serious business, man. It's not all fun and games. All right, we'll do one more.
Okay. All right.
Hacking Alexa and Siri with lasers. University of Michigan researchers demonstrated how to hack smart speakers via laser, and ultimately climbed to the top of a bell tower at the University of Michigan and successfully controlled Google Home devices on the 4th floor of an office building 230 feet away.
That's very interesting.
Yeah, that one's scary again. That's more scary stuff.
I was going to say it was scary again. I was going to say you're telling me too many scary stories.
Yeah, we went from weird to scary. So, do you use Alexa in your house?
We have. I mean, that's probably not some information I should just throw out there into.
Because I was going to head to the neighbor's roof with a laser.
How long have I been in this business? I know how to answer that. I mean, that's between me and Amazon. That's between me and Amazon, right? And Jeff Bezos.
Yeah, right. And of course, they're listening 24/7. Otherwise, how would they know when you say, "Hey, Alexa"?
Here's the major concern with having devices like that. Just from
always on,
let alone having them being hacked in these kind of these. I'm just going to say it's kind of cool, honestly, that they were able to do that with a laser. I would assume that there is a intensity of that laser in a certain and probably a specific port or optical piece of hardware in there that gave them some kind of control over it. But the problem is a lot of people put that Echo device or Amazon Alexa in charge of their home security. We talked a little while ago about the Internet of Things, and the more things that you put onto the internet, the more exposure you're going to have. And especially when you take something like that that can be hacked with a laser, and you give it that much control over your smart home, that's definitely something to be concerned with, and something that you need to general consumers should probably be more knowledgeable about, right? Because
that's always the struggle in our business. That's actually the reason why I switched over from implementation of programming and designing and engineering stuff to being in cybersecurity, because as an industry, what we can do has outpaced what we should do so much faster. There's so many different things that we're doing now that it's like, wow, we can do this. Let's do it. Oh, we can do that. Let's do that. And we don't need to do this anymore. We can just do that. And instead of thinking about, okay, what's the risk side of that? What's the back end of that? What are we exposing as we put more and more and more things out there? This is just a perfect case.
You sound like Ian Malcolm now.
Put something.
They were so obsessed with the idea that they could that they never stopped to think whether or not they should.
Exactly. Yeah, there you go. Straight out of Jurassic Park. You got it.
No.
But anyway, it's fun to just stop and take a look at some of the things that are out here and just see how it fits into our business. So sorry to take you off the topic of what we started talking about.
So you definitely threw me for a loop because you said this would be fun, and now I'm really creeped out. So I know of a story that is actually a lot more fun because it happened a while ago. It happened a while ago, but also it is kind of cool. So Stuxnet, right? It's like the granddaddy of all malicious worms and all of that. So we all know today that it was the intel agencies from United States and Israel, right, that were responsible for basically breaching Iranian nuclear facilities.
We say allegedly.
Allegedly, right? The leading theory is, but essentially the Iranian nuclear facilities were breached, right? So aside from the actual virus that was installed onto the systems of these nuclear facilities that made the centrifuges go faster, I believe, than they should have, and over time they wore out, which caused physical damage. They got a lot of sensitive information, but here's the best part. This is one of my favorite things that they did. They also put in some protocols that played AC/DC's Thunderstruck over the PA system of the nuclear facility at random intervals. They did it over they did it over the PA system, and then they would set it on as each individual workstation got infected by the worm. Part of that protocol was for them to just play AC/DC Thunderstruck at full volume at random intervals. So, who says you can't, hack for good and also have a little fun? Right. I mean, that's one of my favorite stories, though, because it's just like, imagine being on the other side of that and seeing your nuclear facility being a victim of a breach, and all of a sudden you hear Thunderstruck. It's
Right.
it's funny. It's very funny to me. It's definitely something I think I would do.
We got to see if we get fair use of that. Of maybe 3 seconds of that to put in this clip.
Less than 30 seconds. But yeah, no.
Anyway.
That's the greatest thing. That's the thing I love about cybersecurity in this industry, is that it is very serious. A lot of the time,
but we touch everything.
Man, there's some really weird stuff that comes out of it, isn't it? Like, especially as everything becomes a little bit more pervasive into just the human, experience. There's a lot of weird stuff that comes out of out of this realm.
The thing is also, by looking at these different angles, it opens up, the mindset of, okay, there's an infinite number of ways that information systems can be compromised. It's not just, a SQL injection or some, you didn't patch and therefore some obvious thing. There's a lot of different ways. So it's fun to kind of take a minute and look at some of these stories and it just
absolutely. Well, folks, I think that's where we're going to call it for today. Check out the show's notes today for all of the references that we used for this episode. Don't forget to like and subscribe the podcast. As always, I'm Andrew Valencia.
And I'm Michael Hill.
Remember, stay safe, be secure, be sure. We'll see you guys next time.